Hello Poke Bros, welcome back to the channel. Today, we'll be continuing my version of Ash's journey through Galar. In this episode, we will follow Ash, Hop, and Gloria as they take part in the Motostoke Battle Tournament. Also, I want to mention this, but this rewrite is a continuation of Ash from Alola. Originally, I was going to have this take place in my rewrite universe, but I realized it would be weird if I started a universe at the end, so after this series, I'm going to rewrite Kanto through Alola with my remade Ash teams. And maybe I'll make a video about what those teams are. With all the intro stuff out of the way, let's hop in. We would open with Ash, Hop, and Gloria at the Pokemon Center. Our trio has just woken up and they're getting their team sealed for the tournament that starts later today. Ash and Hop would be beyond excited for the chance to test their strength against some other trainers. Gloria would be a little excited too, since she gets a chance to actually battle with her Pokemon. The trio would then head towards the Motostoke Stadium. After entering the lobby of Motostoke Stadium, the trio would be a little shocked by how many trainers showed up. Hop would then say, "Wow, I guess everyone really wants to battle." Gloria would respond, "Yeah, I hope that means there's some good competition." Ash would then tease Gloria, saying that it's not like her to want to battle strong trainers. She would explain that she's just frustrated about her loss in her cook-off. Just then, the trio would hear a voice saying, "I thought I told you not to show up. Remember, I didn't want you to embarrass yourself?" The trio would then turn around, seeing Bede. Hop would then tell Bede that he won't be so smug once he beats him in the tournament. Bede would then say, "We'll see," before walking off. Hop would make it very clear how much he dislikes Bede. Gloria would then feel her bag begin to shake. She would reach inside, grabbing out her Pokemon egg. Ash would ask if it was hatching, but Gloria would tell him that it wasn't hatching yet, but would soon. Ash and Hop would then both become interested in what it might become. Morning would then walk into the stadium with a young boy around Hop and Gloria's age by her side. Gloria would put the egg back in her bag, and the trio would then approach Marnie and her new friend. Marnie would be happy to see them again, and would then apologize to Ash for Team Yell attacking him. Ash would tell her that it was no problem, and would then introduce himself to her friend and his partner Pokemon. The boy would introduce himself as Victor, and he would introduce his partner Pokemon as Cubfu. Ash would think that Cubfu looked cool, and Gloria and Hop would think it looked pretty strong. Victor would then reveal to the trio that he had already earned 6 badges, and that he was just coming to the tournament for some extra training. This would shock the trio, but would also excite Ash, as he now had a new powerful opponent to look forward to battling. The group would then head to register for the tournament. After registering, the group would head onto the pitch for the opening ceremony of the tournament. On the pitch, Chairman Rose would introduce the tournament and the rules. He would explain how the tournament will consist of 5 rounds of one-on-one Pokemon battles with no Dynamax allowed. He would also reveal that the winner of the tournament will be gifted a Gigantamax Curry, letting them give one member of their team the ability to Gigantamax. This incentive would make all the trainers want to win even more than before. Ash and Hop would also be excited as they would love to have a Gigantamax Pokemon on their team, besides Pikachu. Rose would then reveal the first round matchups. The first match of the tournament would be Victor versus a trainer named James. We would then cut to the locker room where we would see Victor and his Cubfu getting hyped for the match. Ash would then approach Victor. Ash would wish Victor good luck, and he would thank Ash. Ash would tell Victor that he hopes he gets a chance to battle him, and Victor would reveal that it was a mutual feeling. Victor would then head to the pitch for his battle. Victor would set foot on the Motostoke battlefield, remembering his gym battle against Kabu. He would then wish James luck before sending in Cubfu to battle James' Phalanx. The battle will begin with Phalanx charging in with a close combat. However, Cubfu would dodge and striking with an aerial ace. Shockingly, Phalanx would faint. Ash would see this and would then realize how strong Victor really is. We would then get a quick montage of our group of trainers moving on. We would see Ash defeat a trainer in their Hitmonlee with his Corvisquire. We would see Gloria defeat a trainer in their Butterfree with her Roly-Poly. And lastly, we'd see Marnie and her defeat a Sylveon with her Morpeko despite the type disadvantage. Hop would also defeat a trainer in their Nuzleaf with his Sizzlipede. Finally, we would see Bede defeat a trainer in their Arbok with his Kirlia. The group would then reunite in the locker room. They would all be happy that everyone moved on to the second round. Our trio would then decide to head back to the Pokemon Center since the first day of battling is done. After arriving back at the Pokemon Center, Ash, Hop, and Gloria would all begin to talk about their battles and how they went. However, Ash would bring up Victor and how easily he defeated his opponent with one move. Hop and Gloria would then reveal that they were a bit shocked by how strong Victor was. Just then, Gloria's bag would begin to glow. Gloria would then grab the egg out of her bag. After a short moment, the light would fade and the group would see a Toxel sitting there. Gloria would be ecstatic about her new Pokemon, and Ash and Hop would both be interested by the Pokemon. Gloria would then ask Toxel if he would like to join her team. Toxel would nod and Gloria would capture the little guy. However, Gloria would quickly learn that, like Ash's Pikachu, Toxel did not enjoy his Pokeball. We would then cut to the next day, where the top 16 of the tournament would begin. As everyone sits in the lobby, the matchups for round 2 would be revealed. Most of the group again was just up against random trainers, but Gloria was matched up against Bede. After seeing his opponent, Bede would say, "Wow, I didn't know they let baby trainers into these tournaments." Hop would then jump in, defending Gloria. However, Bede would remind Hop of his 2 losses to him. Bede would then walk off, preparing for his battle. Ash and Hop would then wish Gloria luck as she heads for a battle with Bede. Gloria would set foot on the pitch, and Bede would mock her, saying, "I still can't believe they have me battling a chef instead of a trainer." Whatever, practice is practice. Bede would then send out his Duosion. Gloria would send in her Squavit. Bede would start by ordering a confusion, and Duosion would do so, tossing Squavit back and forth across the battlefield. After being released from the psychic hold, Squavit would charge him with a bite. However, Duosion would block the attack with a Protect. She would then do big damage with a Psyshock. Squavit would be really weakened now. He would charge him with another bite, but again he would be blocked by Protect. After being blasted by another Psyshock, Squavit would be on the verge of fainting. However, not wanting to see Gloria lose, Squavit would begin to glow, then evolving into Greedent. Greedent would then use his new move Stockpile, raising his defenses. Duosion would then attack with another Psyshock, but Greedent would dodge the attack, then attacking with a bite, doing big damage. However, Duosion would retaliate with a confusion, taking Greedent out. Bede would then say to Gloria, "Wow, you should just give up on Pokemon because you are sure bad with them." Gloria would then run off crying. Hop would head to find Gloria while Ash would head for his battle. After setting foot on the pitch, Ash would wish his opponent good luck before setting out his Pokemon, Pikachu. The trainer would then send in a Silicobra, immediately putting Ash at a disadvantage. Ash would then call for an Iron Tail, and it would connect, knocking Silicobra back. Silicobra would then strike with a Dig, doing big damage to Pikachu. We would then cut to Hop searching through Motostoke to find Gloria. He would soon find her outside the Pokemon Center. Hop would ask her if she was okay, but she would just tell him to leave her alone. Hop, in an attempt to cheer her up, would tell her that Bede has made him feel the same way, and that it isn't her fault. Bede is just a bully. Gloria would then explain that she doesn't even really care about Bede. It's just that she lost her cook-off embarrassingly and lost in the tournament, and it's making her feel useless. Hop would then convince her that it isn't true. However, before he could see her reaction, he would have to rush back to the stadium as his battle was starting soon. We then cut back to the battle where we would see Pikachu charge him with a quick attack. However, Silicobra would dodge with another dig. Pikachu would then use an Iron Tail as Silicobra emerged from the ground, doing big damage. Pikachu would then follow it up with a quick attack, taking the Silicobra out. The crowd would be shocked at how easily Ash won, despite being at a type disadvantage. We would then see a quick montage of Victor winning his match with his Cubfu and Marnie winning with her Morgrem. We would then jump into the final match of the second round, Hop versus Derek. Hop would throw out Bolton while Derek would send in Manectric. Bolton would charge him with a Thunderfang, but Manectric would dodge and strike him with a Discharge. Bolton would tank the attack, retaliating with a bite, chomping down on Manectric and tossing him across the field. Manectric would then charge him with a quick attack, and Bolton would get hit, being knocked back. Hop would then tell Bolton to attack with a Spark, but as he charges in, the attack would transform into a Wild Charge, landing and taking Manectric out. Hop would be overjoyed, and he would then run out, hugging Bolton. He would then look into the crowd. We would then see Gloria, now in a better mood. We would then cut to our group all in the lobby at Motostoke Stadium. Ash, Hop, Marnie, and Victor would all be happy they had moved on to the top 8. Meanwhile, Gloria would still be upset. Ash would then go to talk to her. She would explain to Ash that the combination of taking 2 pretty big losses very close to together and Bede's really hurtful words just caused her to break down. Ash would understand, and he would then vow to defeat Bede in the tournament. Just then, the matchups for round 3 would be revealed, and Hop was matched up against Bede. Hop would then prepare to get his revenge. We would then cut to the first match of the third round, which would be Ash versus a random trainer. Ash would send in Scorbunny while the trainer would use a Galar and Meowth. The Meowth would charge him with a Metal Claw, but Scorbunny would dodge before attacking with a Flame Charge. Now with some extra speed, Scorbunny would kick up his stone, then striking with an Ember. Meowth would then use Home Claws, powering itself up. Ash would then call for another Flame Charge, but Meowth would dodge the attack, then using Slash for big damage. However, Scorbunny would then attack with a new move, Double Kick. Meowth would take big damage from the attack. Meowth would use Iron Defense, raising his defense. He would then tank another double kick before striking with a slash, knocking Scorbunny to the ground. Scorbunny looked like he was going to faint, but just then, Ash would yell, "Come on, Scorbunny, I believe in you. You can do this." Scorbunny would then jump to his feet, charging him with a flame charge, taking the Meowth out. Scorbunny would begin running laps around the battlefield as Ash thanks the trainer for a great battle. Ash would then return to the locker room where Hop would congratulate him on a great battle. The trainers would then look at the TV as Marnie's battle was going on. Marnie's life would be an intense battle between a trainer and their Cramorant. The Cramorant would charge him with a drill peck, but Lipo would dodge before striking back with a Night Slash, taking the Cramorant out. Marnie would congratulate the trainer before walking off into the locker room. There, Ash and Hop would congratulate Marnie on her victory. She would thank them before turning her attention to Victor's battle that is about to start. Hopper then realized that his battle is starting soon, so he would head off to the battlefield. We would then zoom in on Victor's battle. He would send out Cubthoo while his opponent would send in Staraptor. Ash and Marnie would worry for Victor as he was at a severe type disadvantage. The Staraptor would then charge him with a Brave Bird, but Cubthoo would use an Aerial Ace to dodge, then attack him with an Ice Punch. Staraptor's ring would freeze, and he would fall to the ground. Cubthoo would then charge him with a Brick Break, knocking the Staraptor out. Ash would be in shock. Victor didn't just overcome a type disadvantage, he absolutely demolished his opponent. Just then, Ash realized how big of a threat Victor really was. We then cut to the final battle of Day 2, Hop vs. Bede. Both trainers would set from the pitch, and Bede would say, "Well, if it isn't the champion's embarrassment of a brother, are you ready to lose another battle to me?" Hop wouldn't say anything, just sending out his Drizzile. Bede would then send in his Galarian Ponyta. Hop would start the battle by calling for a Water Pulse, but Ponyta would dodge, then using a Psybeam. Drizzle would get knocked back, but would shrug it off, then firing off a Water Pulse. Ponyta would dodge again, but Drizzile would follow up with a Sucker Punch, hitting Ponyta head-on. Bede would be shocked, but would then order a Stomp, hitting Drizzile and making him flinch. Ponyta would then follow up with a Dazzling Gleam, knocking Drizzile to the ground. Drizzile would stand up, and would then use U-Turn. Hop would then send him back in as it was a one-on-one battle. Hop would then order another Water Pulse, but Ponyta would dodge, then using Confusion. The attack would land and Drizzile would become confused. Hop would then order a Sucker Punch, but Drizzile would hit himself, then fainting. Bede would then laugh at Hop, saying, "Wow, it really seems like it gets easier to beat you every time we battle. Maybe you should try catching some actually good Pokemon." Hop would then run off the pitch without saying a word. Ash and Gloria would immediately begin to feel bad for Hop. Gloria especially, as she knows how mean Bede can be. We would then cut to the Pokemon Center later that night. Ash is trying to cheer Hop up, but he just doesn't want to talk. Ash would say, "Hey man, I know you took a tough loss, but you made it pretty far, and you were definitely one of the stronger trainers there." Hop would then say, "It doesn't matter. I just feel like I'm doing something wrong. I need to get stronger." Ash would understand Hop's feeling, and would decide to leave him alone. Ash would then head behind the Pokemon Center to do some training in preparation for the final 2 rounds. Ash would get out there and he'd let out all of his Pokemon, getting them hyped for the last 2 rounds of the tournament. Strudel would be a little upset that he hasn't battled yet, but Ash would promise that he would use him in the next round. Ash would then begin his training. He would focus mostly on Scorbunny and helping him master his double kick attack. To do this, Ash would toss stones up into the air, and Scorbunny would have to hit both of them before they hit the ground. Scorbunny would be pretty good as it felt natural to him. However, while this was happening, there would be a Pokemon lurking in the bushes, watching them train. Becoming filled with the urge to fight, Ash would then decide to head inside to get some sleep before the big day tomorrow. The next day, when Ash and Gloria awake, they would find that Hop had gone missing. They would then see a note on his bed. The note would explain how Hop felt he wasn't strong enough, and how he feels the only way he can catch up with Ash and the others is by setting off and doing some training by himself. Gloria would be devastated as Hop is one of her oldest friends, and they are just beginning to reunite. However, Ash would understand as he's felt behind before, and felt that need to catch up. The duo would then head towards the stadium for the last 2 rounds of the tournament. However, while Ash and Gloria were heading towards the stadium, the Pokemon from the last night would reveal itself. Ash would recognize the Pokemon as a Galarian Zigzagoon. Ash, seeing that the Zigzagoon wanted to fight, would send in Scorbunny. Ash would call for a double kick, but Zigzagoon would dodge then attacking with a headbutt, knocking Scorbunny back. Zigzagoon would follow that up by charging him with an Assurance. Scorbunny would be weakened, but would then attack with a Flame Charge, raising the speed and weakening the Zigzagoon. Scorbunny, now faster, would attack with another double kick, landing and doing big damage to Zigzagoon. Zigzagoon, now on the verge of fainting, would begin to glow, then evolving into a Galarian Linoon. Now knowing Night Slash, he would charge in, striking Scorbunny. Scorbunny would take the attack, then rallying with a double kick. Linoon would then fall. However, before Ash could throw a Pokeball, Linoon would run off, upset over his loss. Ash and Gloria would then arrive at the stadium for the semifinals. Shortly after their arrival, the matchups for the semifinals would be revealed. Ash is up against Bede, while Victor is up against Marnie. Ash and Bede would then lock eyes from across the lobby, as they know what this match really means. Ash would then head for the pitch. Ash would sit on the pitch, and Bede wouldn't say anything to him, just throwing out his Hatcham for battle. Ash would then send in Choodle. Ash would call for a bite, and Choodle would connect. Ash would then tell Choodle to hold on as tightly as he can. Bede would order Hatcham to use Psybeam, but she would struggle to hit Choodle as he was hanging on the top of her head. Choodle would then use a water gun, blasting Hatcham and letting go of her head. Hatcham would then use Psychic, picking Choodle up and tossing him into the sky. And as he was falling, Hatcham would fire off a dazzling gleam. Choodle would take the hit, then hitting the ground. Choodle would be weakened, but would shrug it off, then firing off a water gun, hitting Hatcham square in the face. While she was stunned, Choodle would charge in, attacking with a bite. Hatcham would take the attack and strike him with a magical leaf. Both Pokemon would be very weakened, and would look each other dead in the eyes. Just then, Hatcham would faint. Ash and the crowd would then erupt in cheers, as Ash would run out, hugging Choodle. Bede would then fall to his knees, mumbling the words, "How? How could I lose? I was sponsored by the chairman. I'm supposed to be the strongest." Ash would then approach Bede. He would give him a hand up before saying to him, "It doesn't matter if you were chosen by the chairman. That isn't what makes a trainer strong. It's their bonds with their Pokemon, which you don't really have." Bede wouldn't say anything, but he would nod his head, showing his understanding of what Ash had said. Ash would then meet back up with Gloria in the lobby. She would thank Ash for beating Bede, and she would tell him that Hop would be happy hearing about this too. The duo would then turn their attention to Victor and Marnie's battle. The battle had just started, and Victor was using Kung-Fu, and Marnie used Krogunk. Victor would order an aerial ace, but Krogunk would dodge and strike him with a poison jab. Kung-Fu would take the hit before attacking with a brick break, knocking Krogunk to the floor. When it was down, Kung-Fu would attack with an aerial ace. Krogunk would be weakened, but wouldn't want to upset Marnie. He would then strike with a cross drop, doing decent damage to Kung-Fu. However, Kung-Fu would then get angry, attacking with another brick break, again knocking Krogunk to the ground. However, this time, he would be too weakened to stand, and would faint. Victor would be filled with joy, as now he would get his chance to battle Ash in the finals of the Motostoke tournament. However, on the flip side, Ash was a little worried, as Victor was really strong. We would cut to Ash and Gloria behind the Pokemon Center, preparing for Ash's battle against Victor. Ash would be torn on who to bring. On one hand, Corvus Squire had the type advantage, but on the other hand, Pikachu had the pure power to go toe-to-toe with Kung-Fu. After talking with Gloria, she would tell Ash to decide with his heart. Ash would then think deep, before running off towards the stadium for his battle. We would then cut to the battlefield, as Ash and Victor both step onto it. Ash would say to Victor, "You better give me your best in this battle." Victor would respond, "You bet." Then they throw out their Pokemon, Kung-Fu for Victor and Corvus Squire for Ash. Gloria would be a little surprised, as she would have expected Ash to choose Pikachu, but she would believe in him either way. The battle would begin with Victor ordering an aerial ace, but Corvus Squire would dodge the attack with a drill peck. Kung-Fu would take the hit before attacking with an ice punch. However, Ash had planned for this, and he would tell Corvus Squire to use the drill peck on Kung-Fu's fist. This would freeze Corvus Squire's beak, but would also power up the drill peck attack, doing serious damage to Kung-Fu. Victor would then tell Kung-Fu to use Brick Break, and he would do so, connecting with Corvus Squire's wing, knocking her to the ground. While she was down, he would hit her with an ice punch, doing big damage. Corvus Squire would then rise back into the air. Kung-Fu would attack with multiple ice punches, but Corvus Squire would dodge them all, using home claws in between. Victor would begin to worry, as Corvus Squire's attack was getting dangerously high. Kung-Fu would then finally land another ice punch, doing big damage to Corvus Squire. Corvus Squire would take the hit, then attacking with a power trip. The attack would do massive damage, severely weakening Kung-Fu. Both Pokemon would be on their last legs. Ash and Victor would both call for their last moves. Ash would order a drill peck, while Victor would order an aerial ace. Both attacks would meet in the middle, but only Kung-Fu would fall, winning Ash the Motostoke tournament. Victor would then congratulate Ash on his victory, and he would tell Ash that he hopes to have a rematch once he finishes his training. Ash would promise Victor that. We would then cut to the victory ceremony, where Rose would give Ash his prize of a Gigantamax curry. After a little deliberation, Ash would decide to let Corvus Squire eat it, as she did win in the battle. Rose would then congratulate Ash, telling him to continue on and win the league. Ash would thank Rose. Ash and Gloria would then set off towards Hamrock through the wild area, and Linoon would follow. And that's all for today, Pokebros. Did you like today's episode? How was all the action? How do you feel about Hop leaving the group again? Or what do you think happened with that Linoon that Ash battled? Any questions or suggestions? Leave them in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye, Pokebros.